Hello, everybody. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the Deep Dive Pop Culture Podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you so much for listening. Friends, I thought we were done with the show called Andor. We did 4 full episodes of this show, breaking down all 4 weeks of Andor, 12 episodes in total. And I thought that was good. I thought that was plenty. And then I got an opportunity that I could not turn down. So what you're going to hear today is an interview with none other than the creator and head writer, executive producer, whatever you want to say, of Andor, Tony Gilroy. This was a really interesting conversation. Got very into the spoilery weeds, obviously, which is why it's coming out after all the episodes have dropped. And I hope you enjoy it. It was a fun conversation. I tried not to let my unbridled fandom of this series get the better of me, and I tried to be as good a host and good an interviewer as possible. That's for you to decide. So yeah, I guess there's nothing else really to say. We will stop talking about Andor after this and go talk about other things. We've got a lot more coming up this summer and this the rest of this year that has nothing at all to do with Star Wars. But once again, Andor was the best, my favorite show in a long, long time. So that's why I wanted to talk about it so very much. And sounds like you all seem to like it as well. So one last time, let's get to the bottom of some stuff, some character arcs, some things that we've been discussing on the show. I go straight to the horse's mouth, as it were, with Mr. Tony Gilroy. Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And congratulations on the series. We won't shut up about it here at Nerdist. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you, guys.
First of all, I'm a fan of writing. That's kind of my, where I come into journalism was through script writing. And so I have a question about, how going into the season and kind of the series in general, how you decided what writer was going to write what arc, and did you choose your favorite for yourself, or did you kind of take the one nobody else wanted?
No, I mean, the process is so, it's sort of like a marathon relay race in a way. I mean, I bring a lot of material in with me. I start with Luke Hall. I start with the production designer for a long time before bring anybody else in. And then because we were doing this, pretty strange 4-act, 4-year structure for this season, with all this negative space, there was kind of a lot of proof of concept that it seemed like there could be a lot of problems in that. So I really road tested it pretty extensively. I kind of wrote the top and tail of each block. I thought would be the top and tail of each block, and I brought that in, and then we have these really intense, 6 days on this time, 6-day intense summit, just blabathon, really like super mean and fast and hardcore. And Luke, the production designer, and Zana, the producer, are in the room the whole time. They've seen all the material before, and then. I don't know. I knew I was going to take the first one because I'd probably already pretty much written the first 3 anyway. How do we divvy them up? There was a lot of Senate in 4, 5, and 6. So it's like, and that seemed, Bo, the House of Cards. It was like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed like natural. Danny, 7, 8, and 9 were really tricky and had a lot of action, and they were different in the structure in the room than they ended up being. It was much more action, a different kind of action in there. So Danny has the most experience and the one I trust the most with that kind of stuff. So he took that. And then Tom Bissell, who was kind of a new flavor for us and kind of the new addition, cub reporter sort of in the thing. He was the most Star Wars. We brought him in because he really had the most Star Wars knowledge and experience. And we're going to sort of wind into Rogue. So I thought he'd help keep me honest, keep us honest along the way in the back end. That was kind of the thinking, I guess. But then, they work, they do all their stuff, and then the process goes on without them, but then I'm talking to them all the time through it. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on. But that's how, I can't remember how we decided the first time what to do. I know Bo wanted the prison, so that's what he sort of raised his hand in season 1. Yeah.
As we're talking, the Gorman Massacre episodes have not aired yet. They're incredible. And I wanted to ask you just sort of about Gorman in general and like how you wanted to, because you spend so much time in the second arc kind of getting to know and kind of establish that the look and everything about that land, and then the first two of the three episodes in week 3 are effectively demolishing that. What was the thinking behind devoting so much time to Gorman, and kind of like what that as a pinnacle, or I guess like a midpoint summit of the season?
There was nothing about it in the canon at all, except
Right.
these two events which were in dissonance with one another. There was a lot of housekeeping there. There was confusion in the canon. So it was a kind of a complete free jump ball. You could do anything you wanted with it. Part of it's practical. If you're gonna spend that much money building something, you got to use it. I mean, that we learned that in season 1 with Ferrex. So we're like, well, we'll build Ferrex, but you got to come back. So we came back in 7, we come back in 11 and 12. So if we're going to build Gorman, so then you kind of go, okay, I got to do Gorman. I'm going to put the Tarkin massacre in the past, and I'll incorporate that. I'm going to put the Mon Mothma Gorman where it has to be in the calendar. I have to do that. And well, then it really becomes how many characters can get involved in Gorman, and then all of a sudden you look around and go, well, God, this is really valuable to Luthen.
Right.
This is really valuable to Luthen, and it's as valuable to Luthen as it is to Partagas and to Krennic and to Dedra. And wow, all of a sudden this single place can be really explanatory and adventurous and exciting for everybody in the show. And it's I don't think people realize when they're writing, a lot of the difficulty in writing is getting people in the same place at the same time. People look like that at the last block, and they might see all kinds of dazzling things that are going on and think, oh, this is really cool, or that's really cool. The hardest thing is get everybody in that room with Krennic at the end and the party at Skulden's house. Why are at the thing? I mean, that's really, and all the infrastructure that goes into leading everybody there organically. Or Gorman just looked like a really big convergence of all the issues that the show is talking about. So it became a really valuable piece of meat.
It certainly has like a distinctive visual style. We in the office affectionately call it Space France, and obviously I feel like that was sort of the goal, because there's a lot of like French resistance kind of aspect of it as well.
There is our original with Luke and I. Our original, all of our mood boards and all of our references and all the stuff that we sort of, as we just go through hundreds and hundreds of images and conversations to try to figure out. We're kind of mixing Milan and Mecca. Those were the two places.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of mixing as an architectural and graphic and color temperatures. And then I mean the French resistance stuff is kind of baked in. I think I probably could have gone in a lot of different directions with the population there and with the economy, everything, and you might still feel the same way, because it really is about, it's the radios, and it's the anybody who's seen Army of Shadows or any of those movies.
Oh, sure.
That how easily corrupted and manipulated resistance movements can be, and how vulnerable they are. But yeah, and then then it was like, we're gonna make up this whole language and this whole economy and the spiders and the cloth, and then it was like, what if we really make it other, and what if we get all these French actors to do it? And
yeah,
I'd seen all these French actors in another show that I really liked, a couple of them, and I was like, start there, and they were available, and I was like, wow, it became a thing.
It really, like, kind of unique among Star Wars languages. It feels like I'm listening to almost French or almost German, or like it's almost all these things, which is very different from a lot of like alien languages.
Yeah, it's not French at all. I mean,
yeah, no.
At one point it got a little bit, it sounded a little bit Yiddish, and we backed off that. And at one point it sounded a little bit Arabic, and we backed off that. And the woman Marina Tyndall, who had been who was Diego's dialogue coach for a time, she put it together, and so we dialed that in. And then, but it had to come out of then when we decided to cast French actors, it had to come out of the French mouth,
right,
easily, and it had to be something that they could remember.
I want to talk a little bit about poor Syril, but also he's a dick. These are the two conflicting things about Syril Karn.
I know. I feel so bad for him, though. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he is used pretty horrendously. Really, everyone on Gorman is, but the fact that he kind of ends his arc seeing, oh, I've been absolutely raked. Like I was used by somebody who I thought both cared about me and respected me, and I was completely whatever. But he does kind of seem at home at like the head of an office. You know what I mean? Like running that office. It's like, oh, that does seem like a good fit for him, brief as it might be. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about Syril this season and kind of how he feels lost, and then kind of his last confrontation with Cassian.
I mean, really, think about how great Syril would have been at Dunder Mifflin, really.
Oh, absolutely. That is Dwight Schrute all over, for sure.
He could have been, he could have been but look, I feel I've had sympathy for, I mean, I have sympathy for all of them. You live through all of them, but Syril maybe a bit stronger than others. He's such a romantic. I think there's so many possibilities of ways that he could have gone. I think he's been so shaped by, this sort of alpha predator emotional terrorist that he grew up with. And like, his search for order is understandable, but that could have been expressed in a whole variety of ways. And some of them could have been beautiful. He just went the wrong way and the wrong people liked him and the wrong things got reinforced. And here he is. And I mean, yeah, he's just been completely abused by his existence and by everybody around him. And the episode is called "Who Are You?"
Right.
The fact that oh my God, the fact that the thing that you've been chasing obsessively all this time doesn't even know who you are in the end is just the saddest thing. I mean, plus I think and I think Kyle really did this. It wasn't really, I never put it in the script because I didn't want anybody to lean into it. But Kyle just sort of intuitively went there. Those clothes and the order and cleanliness of Gorman. Palmo, he really was happy there. Those people, he was starting to go native.
Yeah, and you do get the sense that he thought he could legitimately talk. This was predestined, essentially. Like whatever he did was just kind of to get the pieces set up so that Krennic could and crew could annihilate the planet or whatever. But you get that sense when he goes and talks to the members of the Resistance, like just give me a name of an outsider and it'll be fine. Like, and obviously he's so naive in that moment, but also I think he legitimately, at least my interpretation is that he legitimately thinks he can help them.
No, he's a pawn that thinks he's a rook. I mean, he really is.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. It's totally true. I loved his last confrontation with Dedra, because that is the moment where he finally, like, first of all, stands up to anybody. But
oh no, I mean, look, Syril has balls. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, he friggin' in the first episode. I mean, he's ill-equipped, and he gets way out ahead of himself and whatever. But he's not without fortitude.
Mm. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that scene though between the two of them, because that is a complete shift in kind of like power dynamic or upper handedness, because Dedra has been so kind of commandeering for their entire time together this season, and he finally gets to lash out.
Catharsis, man, drama.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's kind of 101. I mean, it's not. I mean, you don't have to. The musket is packed at that point. All you got to do is pull the trigger, and I mean, the scenes kind of, there's a lot of things to say. The talking points for the scenes are pretty evident. It's just the level of intensity you're going to get to in the room, and I think Giannis and Denise and Kyle. I mean, there's different temperatures and different takes and stuff, but in the end, I think we went with pretty much, the ones that were the most aggressive felt the most honest.
They definitely did to me, and yeah, it's such a sad ending for that character. I want to talk a little too about episode 9, because that is incredible. I think I've been pounding my fist for Genevieve O'Reilly to get Emmy nominated for this for a while, but she's so good in the first arc, and then episode 9 is just another tour de force from her. And it's amazing how tense we know both Cassian and Mon Mothma get off this planet, because we have seen further things, and yet I'm sitting here going like, what's gonna happen? And I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about the writing of that sequence, and also obviously that's a huge part of.
I mean, Danny, the first thing we had to do was get permission that we could like ditch whatever canonical thing she'd said before in the Senate.
Right.
Then we had to but manipulate the canonical story of the Gold Squadron bringing her back to Yavin. So we do that, and you see how we do that, and we didn't want to retcon it outright, but we need what we need, and we thought we could. This seemed like a really good solve, and everybody's really into it. So that was bypassed. Danny wrote an unbelievable. It was a different structure before. Danny wrote an unbelievable episode 9, which was the introduction of K2, which was almost a standalone episode. Horror movie. It was fantastic, and he poured his ass into it, and it was really cool. It was really expensive, and we couldn't do it.
Right.
And and so we went back to the other structure, which actually probably is better served for the show. And I mean, that speech and that dynamic with Cassian and Luthen and everybody converging there at the same time. I mean, a bunch of passes and a lot of different work on it, and then John Gilroy and the editors come in, and we try to time everything out as we get closer, and then the whole team has to work together. Whenever we do any of those crescendos, they always have to be location specific. How far does it take to get from here to there? How far, what would be here? Can we have television so we can keep the speech alive? Doing all these other things. It becomes a whole, as I said, it's really a marathon. It's a creative marathon that just keeps going on and on and on. Yeah, so a lot, I mean, that's all hands on deck, that episode.
I mean, it's incredible. And I think what I really like about it is that you allow a good amount of downtime, like after, when they're just in the safe house waiting, like, and there's the decompression time. It's not, they're on a ship and they're getting shot at as they're leaving, you know, they actually get a chance to sit and talk to each other, which I think is kind of rare for a show like this, or it could be a rare for a show like this.
I'll say something else that doesn't really ever get, I don't know if I'll have another chance to talk about it. I think I might have mentioned it once in one other piece, but like one of the things I'm really, and this from a writing point of view, that it was really important to me. It's kind of unusual. I never had the chance to really do it before, I don't think. But I said to Luke in the beginning, I go, I want the safe house to be a vital character in the show. Like I want the evolution of the safe house over the 5 years to tell, if you just saw the safe house, you'd know what the story was without anybody in it. And it was so pleasing to go back there at that moment and realize and then, and we go back again one more time. But yeah, I love that safe house. I love the idea of an environment that just holds so much stuff for all the characters, and that's what's really cool about doing something that takes place over 4 years.
Absolutely. And it does, like, it feels like home in a weird way. Like we saw obviously Cassian and Bix living there, and then when they show up there and he knows his way around and Mon Mothma points that out, I think like you're absolutely right. It does feel like a different, or like a character, and kind of like a hug of a place, you know?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the end, like Luthen's arc in this season. Luthen is obviously an incredible character. Another Stellan Skarsgård, another amazing performance. But um, as the Rebel Alliance starts to grow, Luthen starts to become much more kind of sidelined, to the point where when Dedra finally finds him, he's basically just like, the rebellion's not here. I'm kind of not, like, if he hadn't found that information out earlier that day about the Death Star, he kind of isn't important anymore. And I think that's a really interesting thing for that character who has spent so much time being the fulcrum, or the axis point, if you will, of all of these kind of different threads, and kind of having that be the end of the character.
I think you picked up on the essential line in that scene, which is, it's not here. It's just not here anymore.
Yeah.
Left the building. I mean, in a way, his whole goal it's very Zen, is to erase himself. I think he realizes in the end, it's sort of what he says to Lonnie early on, but it's a more refined version of that, which is, I can now be nothing because I've moved on. I mean, he really has. And people don't really realize it. I mean, Cassian will articulate that for the uninformed in Yavin later on. And I think in canon, it'll be hard to go forward and not put Luthen in the Star Wars Hall of Fame of people that are responsible for the success of the rebellion.
I won't take credit for this. It's one of my coworkers, Mikey Walsh, who is from Boston, but he equates Luthen to Samuel Adams as like the one who was like behind pulling the strings in the revolution. But then once it actually got going, they kind of kicked him out.
Yeah, no, a pain in the ass. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everyone hated him, and yeah, he didn't look. I mean, Luthen Rail's human resources skills are poor. They're
very much
not a good. No, I mean, the guy who can build this thing is not the guy who can run it. It happens with so many like startup companies. The guy with the good idea is not the good boss.
And I like that I mean, he knew that from the start. He's like, I will not live to see the fruits of my labor, kind of thing. Whether he knew it was going to be then or another time, like, so there's a level, and I love that he gets a little smile right at the end when he's, and whether that's, I read it, or I do feel like that's something Stellan kind of puts on, but what it, I'm curious what the at what point, or maybe it was always this way, to like have the Luthen and Kleya flashback as such a big part of that episode, kind of give them a little bit more context. Because I think it's really important because we don't know too much about them. But at what point was that kind of thought up when you were coming up with ideas?
I think when I was sketching that the second season, probably in the first couple sketches, I was trying to incorporate the flashbacks with maybe some other story. Maybe I had some other things going
Mm,
on. Um, the truth is there isn't that much interesting going on in the background when that's happening. Um, uh, that can't be deferred for
right.
an hour or two. Um, and then it's just it got so juicy to do, and it means so much, and it says so much about something that we've all been interested in. And then it took on a life of its own, and it became so haunting for it just was like, okay, let's just go for this. Let's just have it. Let's just, and they deserve it. And uh, it's also really tricky, to be honest. I mean, I promised Stellan before he signed on to the show two things. I said, okay, if we ever go more than two seasons, because we were gonna, I said, I'll kill you after two seasons. If you still want to die, I'll make sure you don't have to do more than two. It's because they want everybody to sign on for long things.
Yeah, of course.
It's very serious and unpleasant. So I said, I guarantee you two. And then as we had conversations, what's Luthen's motivation? How to get into this? And I had a couple elaborate different things and whatever. And he said, look, he goes, we don't have it yet. He goes, but um, I'll just don't make it revenge. I don't want it to be revenge. And this is as far away from revenge as I could get. And I also very much wanted to explain this relationship in a way that that felt, I don't know, righteous. And also, I was always concerned all the way through the whole thing that I never wanted, if you notice, they never touch really. I didn't want anybody to think there was anything romantic or weird.
Mm,
I didn't want anybody to think she was his daughter or his lover or anything. I wanted the relationship to be absolutely as antiseptic as it is, but that required really explaining its provenance. And then when you get into the provenance, you have this girl, and then the potential problems are, my God, is he manipulating her into this life? And when you try to argue, when you try to build against that, you realize it's really cool. She's actually been in charge of the thing from day one. From the
mm.
moment they met, she's been in charge of everything. She really has been the boss. He's afraid of her all the way through. If you go back and look at the show, she's kind of she's the navigator all the way through from the time they met. And that's a really that's a really cool that's a really cool thing to play with.
Yeah, I mean, you have that exchange in the second arc where he's basically yelling at her like it's all gonna fall apart, like which at the moment you feel like, well, okay, so what does she do? You know what I mean? Like, so you do start to read into that, and I do think that's a
Oh
really
no, if you go
interesting.
back and watch the show, I think people who go back and watch the show after seeing episode 10
Yes.
see that it plays all the way through. You're going, oh my God. Oh, of course, of course, of course, of course.
Yeah. And then you leave, she gets to basically be alone and you really get the sense that she doesn't know where to go after that.
I
Because he
know.
gets effectively, like, I won't say the easy way out. He gets the hero's way out. He gets an ending, and she doesn't know what to do after that. And I think that's a lot of my favorite stuff in the last arc is her kind of figuring out where she fits, I guess, and if
So
she fits.
no, it's what Elizabeth Dula was just so good. And Alonzo knew that there's the moment where she's in Yavin at the end and she's seen Vel, and it's in the final montage there. And just the little slightest Mona Lisa kind of bit of pleasure that she realizes what her contribution has been as she sees what they've built, as much as she's been against Yavin and against
Mm.
the establishment and felt like an outsider. There's just this, oh my God, it's shaded so beautifully. You just almost see this, just the beginning of a little bit of satisfaction with what they've done.
I love the last montage when Cassian's walking and we see what's happening with all these other characters, and setting up Rogue One and everything like that. But I really like that because we didn't know where anybody else, what would happen to anybody except for Cassian and Mon Mothma and a couple others. I like the fact that we get to be surprised. Oh, Kleya and Vel, they survive. Good for them. And Dedra technically survives. That ending of Dedra where she is, I think that's worse than death for her. Like that is such. When did you hit on that? That was going to be her kind of.
I think after we put Narkina together, after Narkina started to come together, and then like it was kind of inevitable. I think it was kind of inevitable. We saved, let's save. I was always like, save a piece of the prison, save a piece, because they threw everything away, man. They threw everything away. So like I said to Luke, I go, we should save a section of Narkina for us.
And now we get the fan canon of her helping to, or building the second Death Star also, which is fun.
On Narkina 3 or Narkina 9, wherever Narkina.
Yeah, right. Before I let you go, I just want to say, obviously this was you had a plan going in, and this sort of is the culmination of it. And obviously, as we're talking, it hasn't aired yet. But looking back on the 2 seasons of Andor, what are your sort of like takeaways and your, about the legacy of what Andor will be within the community of Star Wars?
Well, I mean, that's the key word, I guess. I mean, on a meta level, yeah. I mean, I feel, on the largest level, I guess, from the Star Wars community, I mean, we've been actively involved in, or responsibly involved in 24 hours of canon now, and then peripherally involved in another 2 with Rogue, and I mean, it's a pretty surprising contribution on my part. For me, it seems surprising. I feel like we've been, I know all the controversies and all the pleasures that have come with it. So I mean, it's we'll see. Time will sift out how it really goes, but it's significant. I think for me personally, I mean, it really is the major. I mean, it has to be the major creative accomplishment of my career, I would think. I mean, to have, to be able to have these kind of resources and this much of a free hand, and be able to tell a story this outrageous and insane and crazy, and all these issues and all these characters. So I don't think I've never had a chance to work on something like this before, like this, and I certainly can't envision that that'll happen again. But on top of that, it's how you live while you do it. And the community that made the show, is just been, I mean, as close to utopian as you can possibly get. I mean, it's 2,500 people, and it's just, man, it was a really challenging, COVID strikes, everything else, but then also just challenging with money and challenging with just everything. And really happy company, really, really, really great vibe over a long period of time. It's Diego, Zana, Wallenberg, John Gilroy, Mo and Leo, Luke Hall, all the department heads, all the directors. I mean, it really, so that's a very proud personal accomplishment.
Well, I mean, as a fan, it's incredible to watch, and I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to go back and watch it again. Thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilroy, for talking to me. That was a really great conversation. It flew by for me as the interviewer. I could have listened to him give Star Wars answers all day, and luckily he's been talking to a lot of other people too. So there's plenty of opportunity for that. I hope you enjoyed that. This was a great, string of episodes for us. Big fan of that show, obviously, and getting deep into the weeds on it was a delight. So yeah, like I said, next week we will have a completely different topic that has nothing to do with Star Wars, but it will be something relevant to your interests, very likely. Please, if you would, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be really lovely and helpful. I would like that. If you want to rate it 5 stars, I wouldn't be mad about it. You can also do so on Spotify. That would be great as well. We are getting very, very close to our 100th episode, and I want to do something special for that, but I don't know what yet. That'll be for future Kyle to decide upon. The Kyle of the future. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I've been Kyle Anderson. Join me again next week on Laser Focus when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.